have any commissioners had any contact with the applicant?
Yes, I have. I had a contact with the applicant. I asked him a question about how much acreage his development took up of the total acreage of the property, and he provided me with an answer.
Great, thank you.
I have had none.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we'll now open for public comments. This time is reserved for those in the audience who wish to address the Planning Commission. The audience should be aware that the Commission may not discuss details or vote on any non-agenda items. Your concerns may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Public input will also be taken during each agenda item. So if there are any non-agenda public comments at this time, please raise your hand. Okay, we'll now close public comment. And we'll move to adoption of the minutes from October 21st, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt?
I move to adopt.
And a second?
And I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes with 4 ayes. And we will move on to the public hearing. So we have one item on the public hearing agenda today, and I'll turn it over to the staff who I believe have a presentation this evening.
Did you adopt the consent agenda and the meeting agenda?
No, I didn't.
Only one item on the agenda.
Okay,
To
can a motion to adopt the meeting agenda?
I so move.
Do I
And I'll
have a
second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes to adopt the meeting agenda. Thank you. Okay, I'll turn it over to staff for presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, planning commissioners, and Happy New Year. We have not seen each other since last year. Today we have one item for your consideration. We have Brian Horn, principal planner, here to present the item for you. So I will turn it over to him.
All right, good evening. So this is the design review for, thank you, for Hetfield Estates, 7 residences and associated grading with those residences. So just to go an overview of the project, we'll just go through the project background, do an overview, then a discussion of some of the elements of the project, and SUICWA, and then recommendation. So the requested action is for the Planning Commission to approve or adopt a resolution approving design review DR 0624 for 7 residences, which include ADUs, landscaping, and associated site improvements. And then a grading permit for 390 cubic yards of grading, comprised of 362 cubic yards of fill and 28 cubic yards of cut, which will be done to further prepare the lots for the development of the residences. So the project site is located in the southeast portion of Moraga within a small valley. Sanders Drive bisects the valley and dead ends approximately 1,000 feet east of Hetfield Place. The proposed Hetfield Estates residences would be accessed via a bridge from the southern end of Hetfield Place, which currently dead ends a short distance south of Sanders Drive, terminating at the northern property line of the overall Hetfield property. Large Creek and its riparian habitat runs along the northern property line of the overall project site, between the proposed homes and the existing neighborhood, which consists primarily of single-story ranch-style residences, typically ranging between 1,600 and 2,600 square feet of living area in those homes, and on lots ranging typically between 9,200 and 18,200 square feet. More ranch-style homes are to the west. To the east and south of the lots is the Hetfield Estates open space, which is approximately 53 acres, or 55 acres. And south of that and east of that is additional residential developments, single-family homes. So just a kind of abbreviated project timeline. The initial application was received in 2005. In 2012, after an appeal to the town council earlier in 2009, requiring an EIR to be prepared, the Planning Commission approved the conceptual development plan. Then in 2014, after an appeal, the town council upheld the PC approval for the general development plan, vesting tentative map, and a conditional use permit with refinements to the emergency access. And then between February 2016 and May of 2021, there were 5 extensions of the map. Many of these were granted via state extensions that allowed that to happen. February 1st, 2022, the Planning Commission approved the precise development plan, a grading permit, design review for the bridge and retaining walls and landscaping on the overall project site, but not for the specific lots. And then in April later that year, the town council approved the final map in the subdivision improvement agreement. The site grading began fall, summer of, kind of the end of summer of 2025. So we'll kind of go through the design of different homes. We'll just start with lot 1. They're all kind of feature kind of a craftsman style to them. They have fiber cement siding. In this model has a fiber cement siding and then vertical board and batten fiber cement siding. The height is 26 feet, 11 inches. The gross square feet is 4,000 with a detached ADU of 800 square feet. And this was the front and the east elevation, and here's the rear and west elevation, and the materials are to the right-hand side, along with the paint colors that are being proposed as well. So the other design that they have is more of a kind of Spanish style, and it's got stucco siding. This one is a single-story home. Again, it's 3,999 square feet and attached ADU 543 square feet. All the homes range between 3,900 and 4,000 square feet in total floor area with either an attached ADU or detached ADU. And then here's the material board for this home, and this is the rear and the east elevation. This is lot 3, so 2-story home. This one is, again, the fiber cement siding and the board and batten fiber cement siding. This is the front and the east elevation. And then here's the rear and west elevation with the materials. And lot 4, fiber cement siding again. And that's the front and east elevation, and then the south and west elevation. And then lot 7 is single story. This one is, again, fiber cement siding, vertical board batten siding. And then this is the rear and south elevation. And then this is lot 6. So as you go up, these get further east on the project site as you get towards the end of the newly constructed Hetfield Place. So the front and west elevation, and then the south and the east elevation. And then this is the last home at the end of the cul-de-sac. And this one's back to the stucco Spanish style design. And that's the front and the west elevation, and then the north and east elevation. So I think I'll get back to the square footages in a little bit. So here's the landscaping for the proposed landscaping, which includes a variety of non-invasive, fire-resistant trees, shrubs, and ground covers, primarily native species that are recommended in Appendix B of the town's design guidelines. Includes hardscape in the front yard, a concrete walking paths and driveway. The side and rear yards would not be landscaped at this time, and that would be up to the individual landowners to determine their landscaping for those. And then just to get back to the grading, 390 cubic yards of grading. Again, it's to further level, prepare the pads from what the subdivision grade has been approved at. For the most part, what it'll do is it'll raise kind of the front of the lots. Some of the lots more than others. In most cases, it's going to be like the front and the western side of the lots. Maximum of 4 feet, but on average about 2 feet And then it will level out the back a little bit further, and a lot of times lower the back just to create a level pad so that they can develop the homes on them. And these are the different grading plans that were provided, and these are included as part of the plan sets as well. It's lots 2, 3, and 4, and then lot 5, 6, and 7. And it shows the finished floor on each of these pads as well. So the development standards were established through conditions of approval, the CDP, GDP, and PDP, and from mitigation measures from the project DIR. These conditions of approval and mitigation measures and the townwide design guidelines were used to create the Hetfield Estate Design Guidelines, which were approved by the Planning Commission in February 1st, 2022. Condition 17 of the project of the general development plan set the max gross square footage of each home at 4,000 square feet. This includes the garages. And for the most part, they range between 3,990 and 4,000 square feet. State ADU law, or state law requires that ADUs up to 800 square feet be allowed, even if the maximum floor area would be exceeded for the property. But this is a table of all the lots. You can see this column right here has the max square footage, and then the ADU size here, and then the total square footage with the ADUs included. And then this table also shows the different setbacks and the lot sizes for each of the lots as well. So staff has reviewed the project against the design guidelines, which were derived from the mitigation measures and conditions of approval. The homes comply with the 35-foot height limit established for the project. Two-story homes will be no taller than 28 feet in height, and single story is no taller than 19 feet. No more than two-story homes will be placed side by side. The lots all provide for 25 by 40 usable yard areas. However, state law allows ADUs to be located in these areas, which is the case on lots 2, 5, and 6. Due to the curvature of the street and the different varying footprints of the buildings, they achieve the 3-foot front kind of variation of the different from lot to lot. So you don't have all the homes appearing to be at one plane. The homes use earth tone colors, shades of gray, beige, and tan. They incorporate a low 412 roof pitch with roof overhangs of 1 foot, 1.5 feet to 3 feet. And the second story balconies do not exceed 10 feet in width and will be built within the first floor roof lines, so deck skirts will not be visible from off-site. So the parking for the project site, each home is required to have two parking spaces under the zoning code, and they also have an additional parking space required as a condition of the project. So they all, in this case, have three garage parking spaces. And then there's going to be, all the homes have room with their driveways included for 5 total parking spaces. So this will accommodate also homes that have ADUs. In addition, there are 7 on-street parking spaces as part of the development as well. And we went over the grading before. The grading is essentially going to maintain the existing kind of elevation of the site, but further leveling out portions of the pads to create a level pad for the homes, and will remain in substantial conformance with the town design guidelines and previously approved pads. So the landscaping plans for the front yards, they consist of 4 tree species and 16 shrubs and ground cover species. Again, they'll be fire-resistant native species. All the proposed species meet this criteria except for the evergreen yellow daylily, which is proposed in the bioswale area along the front of the lots. It is a recommended planting in Appendix B of the town design guidelines. The landscape architects recommended this as a more fire-resistant option within the bioswale area, which runs along the front of the lots and connects to a bioretention basin at the next to lot, just west of lot 1. So as part of the project, there is a requirement that the applicant install story poles. So here's some pictures of the story poles that have been installed. To the left is lots 6, 7, and a portion of lot 5. And then lots 1 and 2, as viewed from the end of Hetfield Place, are shown on the picture on the right. So an EIR for the project was certified in 2012. An addendum was subsequently prepared to address emergency vehicle access. The proposed residences and associated improvements are consistent with the certified EIR, mitigation monitoring reporting plan, and addendum, and no further environmental review is required under CEQA guidelines section 15162. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution approving the design review and grading permit for the development of 7 residences at Hetfield Place. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for your presentation, Mr. Horn. Are there any questions for the staff from commissioners? I'll ask that you hold all comments at this time. Reserve this for specific questions of staff. Sorry, yep.
I have questions, if that's all right.
Go ahead.
Brian, thank you very much for, as always, a very detailed presentation and staff report. I have a few questions, but the first one, I just want to reconfirm. Tonight, we're not looking at the subdivision. We're not looking at anything else other than the architecture and then this grading.
Correct, all the development of the lots, essentially.
Okay. Now I'll get to the more detailed questions. Concerning the material board, I went through it. I didn't see information on the specifics of the windows or the doors. Do we have any information on that? Did I miss that?
Yes, there's no specific information on that in that plan
Okay.
sets. Yeah.
Perhaps the applicant would speak to that later. Concerning the ADUs, are those part of the application tonight, or is that just discussed and the applicant's going to submit it later? Because I saw them in the plans, but it seemed like in the staff report, it noted they would be submitted later. So I don't know if I should be looking at those now or holding questions because those are going to come back to staff later.
Yeah, they'll come back because they are accessory dwelling units, so staff will review those, but they're kind of essential parts of this project, so we wanted to have them all included as kind of an
Okay.
understanding of everything that was going on.
And I appreciate that. My question would have been, are those ADUs going to be fire sprinklered? But I guess we'll deal with that later. Concerning the fire suppression system, obviously this project site and the vast majority of Moraga is in a, I believe it's very high wildfire severity zone, and they have to comply with Chapter 7. But I also noticed that it said NFPA 13 fire suppression system, and if I understand correctly, NFPA 13, and then there's 13R and then 13D. 13D is where the fire suppression system comes off of the domestic line, but 13 is where it has its own fire riser, which is a lot of detail, but the only reason I'm asking is if there's a gigantic fire riser in the front of the house, I think that's important to know now. Do we know that, or will staff clarify? I mean, the applicant potentially clarify that?
We don't, thank you for bringing that up. We did look at the plans right before this hearing, looking for that reference and didn't find it. But we also followed up with the applicant. We have not received written comments yet from the fire department, so we can follow up again, but agreed. Typically, depending on the size, I've seen these in multifamily housing developments where the risers is a significant piece of equipment. But I don't know what they would look like here in this case. But we agree with your concern that it would not be favorable to locate that equipment in the front or any place visible. But I don't know which one would apply or where it would be located.
Okay. And then my last question to staff was just the WUI compliance. And I know that CAL FIRE, and I'm not trying to deliberate, but CAL FIRE says that, you know, there's all these requirements. You can build in a very high zone, it just comes with requirements. And my question is, do we have confirmation that all this building material complies with that? Because if they had to swap out to something different, that could potentially change the look and feel of the house.
Can I take that? Sure. Yeah. So as Brian explained when he was going through his presentation, the materials that are proposed are fiber cement siding, typically. In the presentation that we made to the town council last week, the town ratified the MOFD's fire code, 2025 fire code, and the wildlife urban interface code as well. And the updated WUI code, it's referenced as a WUI code, includes some home hardening requirements that will be added. It also, if you will, collects all the WUI codes as they were distributed throughout between the building code and the fire code, and now they all live in the fire code. And so that's what the town ratified last week. So all of those the entire town of Moraga is in the WUI code applies to all new construction in the entire town of Moraga. So that's what would apply here as well. So the fire department will ensure that all the home hardening requirements would apply for this project. And then I know we've had other comments or other concerns about zone 0 and what applies to that. And again, we would refer to the fire MOFD to tell us. But we also are awaiting comments back from the Board of Forestry to tell us what exactly is allowed in the zone 0 construction.
And so just to clarify, if you don't mind, I know you probably have another question. So if we hear from MOFD and the and Forestry Board next week that what they are proposing today does not meet their requirements, this would come before us again with new materials?
It would be up to you, but I think optimally it would be something that we can review at a staff level in collaboration with MOFD to see what they would advise us, so that it wouldn't have to come back to the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
I'm trying to
Commissioner Helber?
how to phrase it as a question. If zone 0 requirements, for example, the canopy of a tree line can't be within X distance of the house. The landscape plans right now have one tree per house.
Mm-hmm.
Could we say we want to keep one tree? You can move it around, but we want to keep one tree per lot?
Yeah, I think we can have that flexibility.
Discussing, sorry.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we can craft into a condition.
I have notes for later.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Weber?
Thank you, Mr. Horn, for the great presentation. Again, always great detail. Just a couple of clarifying questions since we're new, and this goes back 13 years. Those conditions of approval, the 40-odd, when were those approved, or when were those made? When were those approved?
Just the conditions of approval for the project?
Yes.
Overall? So, well, the conceptual development plan is where they started. And that also included a mitigation monitoring plan, so 2012 about. And then they basically took the conceptual development plan conditions and kind of put them in the general development plan, updated them a little bit. So most of the conditions come from the general development plan, the mitigation monitoring plan. That's
Okay.
where they primarily come from.
Okay. And we're talking about here, insofar as the grading, about another 0.5%. Is that, can you explain that a little bit more? It was in your report that
Yeah, so
what we're doing is like half again percent, a half percentage more of grading that's already been approved in terms of square,
roughly,
in terms of,
yards, cubic
cubic-
yards. Yeah.
okay.
So it's 390 cubic yards. It's about 50 cubic yards per lot. Generally, Moraga's grading ordinance is a grading permit's triggered with 50 cubic yards or more. So it's right. It's a minor amount of grading in the context of the project that's been approved, just to further level the lots.
Okay. And the jihad requirement, does that also go back to the original 2014, 2012 approvals? in terms of the set aside for the entire lot? Because I understand about 95% of the lot, of the whole property is a geological hazard abatement.
Yes, the open space portion of the property, the approximately 55 acres, that's all going to be part of the Moraga Geologic Hazard Abatement District.
And that was approved when?
So that's still ongoing as far as getting it completely annexed. It's been kind of, it was anticipated to be annexed in, so that
Okay.
part began, and now they're developing, I believe it's called the Plan of Control, which is kind of the specific details for how that open space area is going to be managed long-term.
And who typically would manage that long-term?
Well, it's through the Moraga GAD Board, which is the town council acting as the GAD Board, essentially.
Council acts as the GAD
It's
board,
the same
okay.
members, but they're the GAD Board operating separately they're not the council in that capacity. Yeah, so they're the GAD Board, and then there's a GAD manager who will be in charge of monitoring it, on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you again for your presentation. I have just a few questions. I didn't see any plans for lighting, specific lighting along the new road in front of the new residences. Is that included in this plan?
So like street lighting?
Mm-hmm.
So the conditions of approval for this project
Right.
did not require street lighting. So the only lighting, and maybe I'll have the developer confirm if they've included any street lighting in their plans, but I'm fairly certain that there's no street lighting for this project, and it's all going to be just the lighting on the homes themselves.
Okay. And so if they decided to add street lighting, would that need to come before us again?
I guess
Or
we'd have to-
before the planning department?
Yeah, we have to look at the condition, the condition of approval essentially just said that street lighting is not required for this, so.
Correct, and it had
Yeah.
specifics about any lighting being facing away from.
Dark sky, yeah, there
Sanders
was a lot of,
Drive.
a lot of
Okay.
concern about the natural areas around and everything like
Correct.
that, so I don't anticipate that they would want to do the street.
Okay.
They don't have to do street lighting, they wouldn't want to do street lighting.
I also didn't see anything specifically related to landscaping on the other side of the new Hetfield Place Road, right? Specific to additional trees, shrubage to add to the screening. Is that in the plan that
Yes, that's was part of the 2022 approvals, where in 2022, along with the precise development plan, they approved additional tree plantings to be planted along the north side of Hetfield Place, between the
Right.
creek and the road,
I
essentially.
don't see that on today's plans, though, correct?
No, it's not on these plans, no.
Okay, but that is still a requirement, a condition of approval is to install large trees on that side to provide additional screening for the homes on Sanders Drive?
Yes, when the grading is complete, the site grading, that's when they're part of developing, when they're building the road and everything, then they have to also put that landscaping in as well.
Okay, and is that specific to the size of the trees that go in, so it is mature trees, not just shrubs and
It's
slow growing?
Well, the trees are native. I believe the majority of them are oaks. There might be some others, but it's a mix of 24-inch box, and I think more in the creek area, there's smaller, like tree pot sized trees. So, but the ones that are planted along the road those are the ones that are supposed to provide the more immediate screening.
Screening,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And I know my last question is, there were a number of comments, letters to you all and the commission today with a number of questions of who's monitoring the tree removal and the riparian areas throughout this project. It sounds like there are some downed trees that have fallen just naturally that haven't been remediated yet. And wondering if you could answer that as to who is monitoring that and with what frequency?
Yeah, I think they did the majority of the tree removal, I believe, and we can confirm with the applicant, but over kind of towards the end of the summer and fall, and they cut down a number of trees that were part of the approved plan. They
Right.
were allowed to cut down some trees. There was one tree that was removed without a permit, and that was over by Lot 1, so on the, the west part of the site. And then they did get approval to remove the tree. There was a large tree that was where the bridge was going to go, to remove that tree as well as part of because it's going to be within the footprint of the bridge. So that's majority of the trees that have been removed at this point.
Okay.
But the applicant may have done some other shrub work. So we didn't monitor the shrubs quite as much, but there may have been some stuff done for fire purposes and things like that. So we could have the applicant talk about that part, but we're mostly monitoring the trees.
Okay, and for those that were removed to build the bridge, is the agreement that they replace that with something of equal size?
The conditions of approval is they get replaced at a 3-to-1 ratio, basically.
Perfect. Thank you. And then I think the last question I had, Planning Director, you had referred to was my question about the wood, on these design plans, it looks like they have wood fencing directly to the home, which would not be in compliance with Zone 0. We're having wood fence attached to the home. And so while MOFD will obviously assess that, if that's been discussed with the developer.
So we did just have a follow-up conversation with MOFD about this. And at this time, that type of fencing is permitted at this time because they haven't passed those rules that would put that into effect. But once that new rule goes into effect, basically you can have the wood fencing, but just not within 5 feet of the home, and then they'd have to use some alternative material that's fire resistant.
Correct.
But currently, that rule is not yet in effect.
Okay, so would it be possible to put a condition of approval in place when the time comes to discuss this, ensuring that if Zone 0 becomes how we're moving forward next week, that be included in this design, that this not be grandfathered in having a wood fence directly attached to the house?
Could I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Is it true that when they submit for a building permit, they'll have to comply with whatever the building code is at that time? So I think that
So
catches.
that would catch the
But
weed.
there's no I guess my question, another way, what you just said is, actions we're taking tonight doesn't grandfather them or exempt them from any building code requirement that would be in effect at the time they ultimately submit for a building permit.
Right, at this point, the applicant has not submitted a building permit application, so there is no grandfathering in of the
Okay.
building code.
Wonderful. Thank you for clarifying my question.
There's,
No, I was-
and also, based on my previous comment about how the town just ratified MOFD's Wildlife Urban Interface Code, that also will be new as well, and the fire department will enforce that. It used to be that what's referred to as Chapter 7A used to be in the building code, and that was enforced by the building department, but now the fire department will enforce that part. There might be, the applicant might be under the impression that the old code applies, but town's understanding is that the new code will apply.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the commission for staff? Okay. Okay, so we will move to open the public comments portion of the meeting as they pertain to this item. If anyone from the public wishes to speak, please utilize the cards in the back of the room on the table there if you haven't already. Say that again?
Let me try this timer thing.
The applicant does not have a presentation tonight. And I will call on you. Remember to state your name and address for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes, which will be up on the board as we do not have a timer today, a person here timing.
Want this to show on the screen, recorded?
Oh.
Yes. Oh, yes. But he may, okay. Absolutely. Would the applicant like to
Yes,
speak?
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sridhar Pilarisedi. I'm the experienced developer. I've done similar projects in City of Fremont, City of San Jose, completed successfully. And I'm very excited to work on this project with Town of Moraga, with the help of town planning for years, town engineering, and the town council planning commissioner approvals, and the neighborhood support a couple of years ago. In the public hearing, we're able to get the map approved and recorded, which is great news. First of all, I want to thank everybody for support for recordation of the map, which is the significant steps forward to get to the next steps of the project. Also want to thank all the public agencies, including Fire Department, Central San, East Bay Mart, California Fish and Wildlife, Army Corps, you name it, like all the agencies that we had to navigate through following the conditions of approvals and their guidance. We were able to successfully complete the grading, majority of the grading work, even including the rains.
It's just the rain, yeah.
Including the rains, were able to successfully complete major development over last 12 to 18 months. With the installation of the story poles, the site looks clean and great. With the design review board approval, I'm looking forward to get through the building permit application next phase and develop the homes, with the nice trees and the landscape that could make things even beautiful in the area, including development of the public trails, which will also be useful for the community, and they could enjoy walking on a nice trail that doesn't exist today. So I'm looking forward to develop all of that, and including the bridge that we're developing. We are using all the very experienced team that is involved, including the bridge and the engineers and our geotechnical. They are 30+ years experience in this area, and they've been doing a great job, putting the very quality materials even beyond what's needed, like even the class 2 base rock materials, filling in with iron cast bridge instead of CMU, things like that. So we are building a stronger foundation that's going to stay there for years. Thank you for the opportunity and look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you. Do you have others speaking?
If I could take questions, I would also like to clarify in the fire district comments that were raised before, if it is a good time to answer.
To answer sure, go ahead.
I think the couple of comments I heard, one is the fire district. We are closely working with the fire marshal, Casey, since almost 18 months now, since the time we put these plans. These plans were submitted to town planning. At the same time, it was also submitted to the fire district, each lot, each everything. So they completed their design review based on the 2022 codes and standards. And they were good with the design review submitted. And the next step, they asked us, hey, once you get the full drawings for the building permit, including the structural, we want to take another look at the building plans, which is not there yet. I agree that could be 2025 standards for the building, which will override, something that they looked at before. But we are following their standards, and they have not raised any concerns to the materials or the wood fence at this time. So they have same set of plans that planning reviewed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, at this time, we will open it up for public comment. Okay, I have John Valentine. And please remember to state your name and address for the record.
Lucky me. John Valentine, I live at 1144 Sanders Drive in Moraga. I've been a resident for 22 years. Thank you for taking time to listen to the concerns of the public today. My question really, my question, obviously I live directly across the creek from Lot 7, which is the building that is apparently the tallest of the 7 houses that is projected to be built. And it was originally stated that we were going to do everything we could as a town to minimize the visual impact of this project on the neighbors. The grading plan raised the side of the pad behind our yard 12 feet. And then they are going to stick 35 more feet of visual obstruction between us and the hill behind the development. And I just really have a hard time understanding how the assertion that 12 feet plus 35 feet, you got 47 feet at least, and how that is going to minimize the visual obstruction on the project. Beyond that, I would just simply ask the planners, the planning director and the planning office, specifically, we had commitment after commitment after commitment from the town council that this project would be in keeping with the spirit of the Sanders Drive neighborhood. Visually, it would be in keeping with the spirit of what was being designed, or what was, that what was coming in would be in keeping with what was already existing. And I gotta tell you, we have great neighbors. Not one of them has a house that has anywhere close to 3,900 square feet under roof. Most of them are between 22 and maybe 26, and that includes garages. You're at least 50% bigger than anything else in the community. And I guess I would want to ask the planners, what efforts have you folks made to ensure the town council's assurance to the folks in the neighborhood that this development would be in keeping with the spirit and the feel of the existing neighborhood? That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Right, I have Duran Santi.
Good evening. My name is Darren Santee. I live at 1148 Sanders Drive. And I would kind of echo probably the same things you're going to hear all night. But certainly the homes that are proposed are nowhere near compatible with the rest of the structures on Sanders Drive. They just look completely out of place. As John stated, they're virtually twice the size of the existing homes. So I've got a serious issue with that. I also have had concerns, or still do, about the lighting. I understand tonight that there's no lighting required, which I guess means then there's nothing to prevent them from putting lighting in. So I'm a little concerned about that. If there is any lighting going out there, I'd like to have a say in it. I'm actually most concerned about the overflow parking area of any lighting that might go on there. That's currently situated right behind my house. And so I certainly don't want lights shining in my backyard. And then, you know, back to the ADUs, that was a big surprise to all of us in the neighborhood when all of a sudden those showed up. Understand the state law allowing them. However, you know, has anyone taken into consideration the additional vehicles those are going to provide to the street and the overflow parking? I don't see one of my neighbors, Greg Huff, here tonight, but he's sent a letter to the commissioners basically pointing out that his view of it is since those ADUs were not included in the original EIR, that the EIR should be readdressed. So I'm just going to say that. And then lastly, I will just leave you with I guess the thing that's been stuck in my craw for many years now is the dead trees. And in spite of Mr. Horn's statement that the vast majority of them have been removed, I believe that's an incorrect statement, because I'd be happy to take you out there and show you all the dead trees that still exist there. About 2 years ago, one of the dead pines, during a storm just like this, blew out of the top of the tree and fortunately did not come into my backyard and ruin my brand new deck. But it did fall into an existing live oak tree where it still resides. It's about a 25-foot section, I'd say maybe this big around. It's a big chunk of wood. At one point, you know, folks did come through there to clean up some of the dead limbs on the ground. but nothing's been done to address that tree, and there's several other dead trees out there that are standing there, I guess in the wintertime as potential fall hazards, and yet all during the summer I look at them as Roman candles ready to go. So with that, I will thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. And John O'Hare? Hi.
I live at 1120 Sanders Drive, and my lot is across the creek from Lot 1 in your development. And my concern was mentioned earlier, when they build the building pads for the development, they raised the pad much higher than initially planned, as I understand it. And I'm not sure exactly how many feet higher in Lot 1 the pad is than what it was originally designed for, but it is higher. I know Aziz probably knows the exact number of feet that they had to fill in to make it higher. But my concern is, because it's a two-story house, it's going to be a lot higher than initially anticipated. And what I was hoping is when they put in some canopy, that they put in canopy that will take into consideration the increased height of the house. And in my email I sent, I suggested redwoods, like a 6-foot redwood, because they grow quickly in that area and they do well. And they would provide much more canopy and privacy than just putting in a little sapling that's going to take about 10 years to grow. So that was my main concern about and I don't know how much it affects the other houses, because I don't know how much their pads are actually higher than what was initially anticipated when they first started the development, but I think they all have gone up quite a bit. And the other question I had was, when the houses are finally built, who's going to be responsible for keeping the creek clear? Because I think that should be clearly spelled out, because there's the potential for soil erosion into the creek from all the excavation that's being done. So we need to have it clarified who's going to have to be responsible for the creek. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tad Koziel?
Hi, everybody. Ted Koziel. I'm at 1132 Sanders Drive. I just wanted to start by saying, 10 months of grading on a Moso hillside, 40 hours a week, plus weekends, it's probably not the town's finest hour. But if we're going to do that, we might as well do it right. And right now what I see, if you drive up Sanders Drive, there's nothing on my street that looks anything like what you guys just showed. We asked about this in 2011 in the EIR. There's several comments about house size. We were told, wait for design reviews. So I think this is our moment, right? The FAR that was used in that original document was 0.23. And me just doing rough back of the napkins, I'm not an expert like these folks, but I'm coming up with like 0.16, 0.17 for the houses right by this development. That's a 40% increase just in the standard that we set. This is one of the oldest neighborhoods in Moraga. The house sizes are small. There's nothing two-story on my street. There's like 2 houses at the end of the street. I don't understand. It defies logic, right? So saying they're gonna have a sloped roof line, but you're adding a second story on a house that towers above the lot 7, it's not gonna make it look like a 1,600 square foot ranch house. So I just hope that as you guys look at these designs, we really do this one right. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Koziel?
I'm the shortest one here. There we go. Hi, I'm Jennifer Koziel. I'm also at 1132 Sanders. We are across from Lot 4. I already submitted a letter, so I'm not going to go over everything in there, but I did want to clarify something about what I said in the letter about notification to residents. I included a photo in my letter of the Hetfield stub, asking if you could spot where the notice was. I neglected to point out where it actually was. It's the little yellow square on the existing signage. And the only reason we knew about this meeting before we got our notifications was my husband and a friend happened to walk past the stub and they spotted it. And that sparked the neighborhood conversation about, does anybody know about this meeting? We haven't received anything. Nobody received notification until Monday at the earliest because of the way the mail works and there's no mail on Sunday. So we did not get 10 days notice, and that may seem like a small thing. However, we are not experts, and any extra days that we can have to prepare for these meetings or get people to plan to come, there were people who couldn't make it, or review the materials is very much appreciated. The other thing I'd like to say is, referring to the admittedly extremely crude map in my letter, I do want to reiterate, and you're going to hear this over and over again, it's hard to understand how the proposed houses are presented as being consistent with the neighborhood. In my map, I counted 80 plus existing homes, that's 80. And there's only 4 houses that are 2-story, and they are nowhere near the site. And so Hetfield subdivision, as proposed, will have more 2-story houses within 7 lots than a surrounding radius of 80 plus homes that are half the size. And that's why I think you keep hearing over and over fewer objections about building materials, colors. I actually thought the colors were kind of pretty. You're not hearing about that. You're hearing about just the sheer size and scale of these homes. It is completely out of character with the adjacent neighborhood. And this neighborhood does have a history, look and feel you may not know, or you may know. Some of the streets are named after the original Moraga ranching families. Sanders, John Sanders, A.J. Carr, they were ranching here in the 1940s, possibly earlier. And their cows are the ones that are still grazing on the hills at the end of Sanders Drive. So this neighborhood does have a history and a look and a feel. And I think all we're asking is please make sure that new development respects that and aligns with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane Ellerbeck?
Hi, my name is Jane Ellerbeck. I'm at 1164 Sanders Drive, the last house on the street, and I'd like to thank you guys for taking time out of this miserable night to come and hear us gripe. But I'm one of the OGs who started back in 2008 fighting this development, and along with all of you guys, and it was a really great fight. I mean, we had to hire our own engineers and our own people that, you know, found a fault in the property to try to say, really, don't build here, just don't build here. But as luck would have it, not in our favor, it got approved. And then they kind of started talking about the design. And we had fought it for, I mean, you could see this, right, Brian? I mean, how many years ago was this that it got approved? 2012? We were 2008, and that, or maybe even earlier, maybe 2006. And then this, you know, kind of the design came up, but you know how it happens, everything is kind of like, well, it's not yet, it's not yet. And so after fighting it for so long and then taking the time that between it, you know, I think we lost sight of really what was being approved here. And now, you know, the 5 extensions, we kept thinking to ourselves, nobody's going to build on this. We got the house sizes down from, I think it was 18 houses to 7, and we were really thinking no one will buy this and build on this. And an extension comes, an extension comes, extension comes. Okay, now here we are. And the bummer is, like, the ADUs were not in there. And just because we can do them doesn't mean we should. The ADU is going to affect just even more bridge work, parking places, you know. So I feel like they weren't there originally. Why do they get to be there now? So that's one of my thoughts. The other thing is it keeps talking about low-density housing. Like it has to be concurrent with the low-density housing that we currently live in. What is low-density housing? I don't even know what that means. So the fact that they call where I live low density and they're going to build low density doesn't seem similar to me. So I just kind of wonder if you guys know what the secret of low density housing is. I'd also really recommend you guys walk the property. I mean, It's shocking. And I know they're doing a great job and everything's safe, but the whole thing is just shocking what has happened behind these houses. I'm concerned that they'll not get fire insurance. That's something that I want to bring up. And then finally, my last comment is, what happens with these projects, and it's no one's fault, and it just happens, you're kind of getting there and you're building something, and at the last minute, it's not really what's in the scope, and then you get this approval and do it. And I feel like that's what happened with the big 100-foot oak tree that sat at the base of that street and would have looked so beautiful with the bridge next to it, you know, to go into this new estate or whatever. And at the last minute, is that me? Is that 3 minutes?
Finish your thought.
At the last minute, you know, they said, oh, the bridge can't, you know, we can't get all the utilities in under the bridge, and we got the approval to cut it down, and it happened in a day. So I want to know how we can prevent that from happening with this project. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And then Aziz Sher.
Hi, I'm the contractor at site. So only thing I can address are some of the concern from the neighbors about the trees. So we removed whatever was approved back in 2022, and that was the arborist report was submitted for that. We removed that, and we removed some of the dead tree. Some of the dead trees still there. We will be removing it as we go along. We're still there and working. Some of the screening, as I think one of the house 11, I believe, 1136 address, I believe, or 1140. So yeah, the tree was removed because they were dying, and they was approved, removed. So there's a mitigation plan for the trees to be installed, and we will put those trees back in when we do the mitigation plan. As mentioned earlier by Brian, whatever tree we remove, we will be putting 3 trees in. So that will be addressed as they're concerned. Yeah, they're missing some of the area, small screen area. We'll have those trees in place, and that will address that, their screening. And then John, I think, bring up the issue for the erosion in the creek. We are following the guideline to control that soil not to get into the creek during the grading work, and is being monitored by the county and some other third-party inspectors. So yeah, so that's been watched out. I think I believe I didn't miss anything. I was more about the trees. If you have any question, I can answer it.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bodie.
Sure, I do have a question. With regards to the creek, who keeps the creek clear now, currently?
See, what we are clearing is one part. If the dead trees is there, and that's something we brought up previously too. We removed whatever we removed the tree, we took it out.
Okay.
Whatever's been there before, we took out some area, but not everything. So that's something, if it's blocking it, and I had a conversation with Brian, and we were willing to remove that as well while we were there.
Okay.
So we'll address that as while we're doing construction part. After we are done with the construction part, that's part, something with the developer and the neighbors can figure out who's going to maintain the creek.
Okay, one more question?
Sure.
Will there be an HOA as part of this development?
Well, that's what developer can answer it, yes.
Okay.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And during the grading work, he put all the erosion control so the soil doesn't go, and he's keeping it clean currently.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And you will clean it at the end of ensure that the creek is clean from anything that you've impacted.
No,
Prior-
we are doing
prior
as
to
we,
getting
anything
off.
we create,
Right.
we'll do it at the same time, right away. Anything has been there before, as we go along, we're doing it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I see you've checked, I don't wish to speak, but I don't see comments, so I just want to check Kishore Kandragunta? Okay, okay. Okay, well, that is all of the public comments that I see, so I will now close the public comment portion and bring it back to the commissioners for further, oh, do you have a card?
The question I asked,
Could you come up to the podium?
oh yeah, you know,
Can-
initially I was concerned about because the heights of the houses, especially across from me, is so much higher than initially anticipated because they had to build
Raise
up
it.
the pad. So my question was, I don't know who's going to respond to this, if it's a developer. I was hoping to get an answer as to if they could put in bigger canopy than what is initially planned to provide a little more privacy, because the houses are going to be up a lot higher than initially planned in the design.
Okay,
That's-
thank you. And I
don't
think
know who
our,
would answer that. You guys, or
I think this gentleman here is ready to answer it,
Aziz?
so. I'll have you, sir, sit down and I'll
All
have
right.
him respond. That way we get that on record. Thank you.
All the grading work is done according to the approved plan. All the, the pad or lot has elevation shows, and that's what we've been doing it. It seems is higher than on his house side. I really don't know his elevation at the ground level is, but the difference as his screening, yeah, we can add more tree in the back side of his creek side, so that can provide him a screening.
Okay.
So when we do a mitigation plan, yes, John, we'll work with you directly, and we'll, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to oh. Could you fill out a comment card and give it to me, and then or just come up and state your name and address for the record, please? And I will reopen public comment.
My name is Dana Ugenti. I'm a third generation in Moraga. I currently live in Lafayette, but I am the next generation of a buyer, and these size homes are something that we are looking for and would love to have more of in Moraga area. So I just wanted to make it clear that it is a need, and I feel like it hasn't been met in Moraga, and I am in support of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close public comment and move on to commissioner discussion. I do want to say thank you before the commissioners begin to share comments. Thank you to all the public who came out today. It's really helpful for us. It's really important for our community that you continue to keep coming to these meetings and keep making your concerns, passions known. So thank you to all of you who came out this evening, and to the developer for addressing those questions as they came up. So I will open it up to the commission. Who wants to kick it off?
If all right to the chair, I have some questions of the applicant just on the
Absolutely.
submittal.
Sure.
If the applicant or the applicant's architect or the contractor is available, if you could speak a little bit to the architecture. I couldn't tell from this level of plans, like the window details. Are these flush windows? Are these recessed windows? And the reason, I have several of these questions, and the intent is, if this project were approved and ultimately when the the construction documents are submitted, our planning department needs to review those to determine compliance. And I just want to make sure there's enough specificity, I don't think I said that right, detail there, that they'll be able to make that determination.
Yeah, exactly, Commissioner. So that was going to our next step of building permit plans, where we would have all the details of window specs.
Sure.
But at this time, in working with the architect, it's going to be recessed windows, or about like 3-inch depth from the finish of the wall.
So
Is
it's like
the
a
current plan.
2x6 recessed in 2
Right,
inches.
that's the current
Okay.
plan, but we are flexible. If there is any suggestions, commissioners or planning department gives us, so we don't have any restrictions on following those guidelines.
Is that recess the front elevation, or is that all 4 sides?
I believe it's all 4 sides.
Okay.
I could check with the architect, but again, there is a flexibility depending on, the town guidelines. We could always follow those guidelines. It's not our reservation in any way.
Uh-huh.
And then all the burial boards, I also agree that will all come into the building permit application when we submit the full architectural drawings. But at this time, our planning is wooden doors, recessed windows, and then all the materials that Brian talked about in terms of the Craftsman fiber cement. Some of them are flat stucco, things like that.
Okay. Our concern, I think, is mostly trying to get that architectural detail where you have a shadow line. So either the trim comes proud of the siding to create that 2-inch setback, or if it's a stucco siding, those windows are recessed in those 2 inches so that we can get
Yes,
those
correct.
shadow line. And, obviously this is a conceptual plan, so
Right.
we're just looking for conceptual details now. The railings, again, going along the same line, so are these like powder-coated metal railings?
Metal railings,
Okay.
yes.
And the awnings that are on some of the elevations, like Lot 2 has like a little shed roof that comes out over one of the front windows, and I think another one has a lower standing seam metal roof. Those are, and there's a Juliet balcony almost. I'm trying to phrase this as a question. Those are actual structural elements. They're not just planted on details, right?
I mean, depending on it, I mean, if we could flash that one, if it is a real post, then it's real, but if it is just like in a show, it's just a planting
Like,
of it.
for example, this one right here. So that's the awning that's over that's 2 double hung windows, right?
Yeah, that just to kind of more for
Okay.
just like showing, but there's not really a structure with it.
But that's an element that comes at least 16, 18 inches,
Right.
We're just trying to look for that depth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on the conceptual plans, it shows double door entry doors
Mm-hmm.
with inset glass on some of them. Some of them are, do you have any product specification that you're proposing now that can give us that level of detail?
It would be in a wooden door, double doors with the wooden, and the specs are, I mean, again, flexibility is there, but standard wooden doors.
Okay, probably not wooden, but wooden look, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and then, I was gonna ask the same question about the garage door, but I think we can just go down that. And then the roof material, the S-tile roof seems pretty straightforward what it is. And I know ultimately whenever you submit building permits, they have to be compliant with whatever but what are the roof materials for the shingle or
All of them
asphalt
are,
shingle, or is it a?
all of them are either S-tile or flat tile.
Okay, so it's a.
Some of them are flat
cementitious-
tile,
Yep.
some of them are S-tile, but it's all like tiles.
Okay. Flat tile. Thank you very much for answering those questions. I'd like to jump to the ADU, and I know that's not part of the application tonight, but I think this might be the only time, this project comes before us, because the ADU is definitely state law, and we're going to comply with whatever state law is for review of the ADUs. But is your intention that those will all be fire sprinklered with the houses?
Yes.
Okay. And the building materials of the ADU will be consistent with whatever the
Exactly,
building
yes.
materials of the houses are?
Mhm.
And exactly everything we just talked about?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Okay, perfect. And then I asked a question of staff, and maybe you know it. It's about the fire system. And I don't know exactly where I read it in the application, but it said NFPA 13 system. Do you know if there's going to be fire risers as part of these individual houses? I suspect not, but I just wanted to ask.
Not that I'm aware of, Commissioner, at this time. Like I mentioned, same setup drawings were submitted to the fire marshal, and their inspection permitting team reviewed all the plans, and they are on board with the plan. So they have not raised any concerns, questions at this time, following 22 guidelines. But they did ask, once we start the billing, they do want to review full detailed architectural specification that we're talking about, so that they want to make sure all of that is in compliance with their code. So that would be happening next steps.
Okay.
As we work through. At this time, they are fully tracking to this. We're working closely with them.
Okay. And then I think my last question has to do with the landscaping on the front yards themselves. And I'm no expert by any means, but I suspect that once they start to go into these WUI requirements, these landscape plans are going to have to shift, which is
Correct.
understandable. But what I really like about this is the amount of trees that are, or at least a tree is proposed on every lot. And even though it may have to move around as you go through construction level documents, is your intention or you be willing to commit to have at least one tree per lot?
Yes.
And can we make that tree size of a more immediate presence, like a 36-inch box? Is that reasonable?
I mean, Brian, help me. We do have a precise development plan with laying out. Our landscape architect did put in all the planting requirements, which we'll have to look at, but I'm flexible to make some of the adjustments. And like you mentioned, this is still like an overall landscape plan, but when we submit the building permit plans, each house will have its own landscape plan as well, more detailed. So that would cover very more detailed landscape plans.
It's just the only
that
time
comes
we get a
with
look at it, which is why I'm asking the.
That comes with the building permit application.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
While
Thank you.
you're up, I want to open it if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Commissioner Halber, if anybody else has questions for the developer?
Yes. One question. It seems that a few of the neighbors had made reference to the lots, the current lots being made higher. Was there a reason for that?
No, that's not true. It's probably visualization is something different than the actual staking and engineering.
Okay.
So all our engineers followed what's the approved plans. The eyesight could be different. You know, I heard that from some of the, neighbors as well. You know, in the lot one, the neighbor called me and said, "Hey, this house position doesn't look as picture." And then, we talked about it, and then I had my surveyors taking guys goes and measure it. Yeah, this is perfectly for the plan. And then he actually flew the drone and look at the bird eye and come back, "Oh, I can't believe my eyes. It's actually correct." So I'm like totally wrong. I mean, when you see something, when you actually measure something, it's different. But like Aziz mentioned, these are all per the civil engineering, staking, elevations, exactly for the plan. So there is nothing high. Even for the two-story, there is a restriction on how high we could go. Per the design guidelines, we followed the same guidelines. The total height not exceeding any of the guidelines that are approved or per the standards.
Okay. Well, thanks for your clarification.
Is it possible that at some point more fill was needed for accurate grading of those that might have led to it being a higher elevation?
Lot one specifically.
Could you get behind the mic?
Yeah, lot one specifically was much lower, so we had to backfill. So after backfill, it looks elevated.
You had to backfill the lower lot.
Yeah, lot one was specifically was lower. There was a lot of backfill to get to the grade level. So it looks, before it was look lower, now it looks higher. The rest was cut. So this is specifically lot one has more fill into it. If people were seeing before, from the Hatfield side across the creek, it looks leveled. But now once we filled up already, and we filled up whatever the plans call for it. Yeah.
So the side was like this. When you cut this one and this one, it looked like this. Like the eyesight could be like, oh, it was not like this before.
So that's specifically
you.
lot one.
Thank you.
Any other question related to construction?
I think the question that I have is in reference again to landscaping, because that has clearly been a concern from the neighbors, and it sounds like you guys have been quite open to addressing the concern for shielding and not shielding, screening. Thank you.
Screening, yeah.
I could take that.
The hope of replacing on the other side of Hetfield Place with more mature, right? Not just putting in small saplings over there that will take 40 years to provide shielding, but perhaps be open to planting substantial more mature trees so that there's an immediate shielding for those neighbors who abut this property.
Our goal was not to cut the trees to start with because, me as a developer, I want to save the cost. I don't want to cut the trees. But there were trees that were part of the plan we had to cut. And then our landscape architect does provide the mitigation plan. With every one tree we cut, there is 3 trees. That's our mitigation measures. In terms of where would that be planted, that's a flexibility, right? So we could say, hey, this one needs more screening. Instead of putting, let's say, 50 trees, equally, we could put more here, less somewhere else where there's already screening. So there are some of the adjustments we could work.
And how about in terms of the size of the trees?
Size of the trees, currently I'm going by our landscape mitigation plan submitted part of the PDP before. But if there is some minor adjustments, I'm happy to look into those.
And would you be open to working with the homeowners in terms of placement so that from their vantage point as well, they have some say as to where those trees get placed to?
Yes.
Because obviously from Hetfield Place, the view is different.
Yes. I could certainly work with the neighbors in terms of where those need to be planted, and then things like that. Of course, with the approval from Brian as well, so he will be involved as well. So we'll work that together, and then in terms of where would they be planted to mitigate the trees that were removed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm sorry, public comment is closed at this time. I'm sorry, public comment is closed at this time, but it does sound like the developer is very open to communication with the homeowners, so I'd encourage you to reach out to him with specifics.
The reason the pads were put up is because I was told that they had a problem getting the right slope for the sewer lines.
Okay.
That's why they had to
Our developers, sorry, I'm going to have to, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Halberd, Commissioner Halberd, do you have additional comments?
All my questions were addressed.
Okay, and any comments?
Sure. Does anyone?
Since we're
I
in the
can jump
comment,
right into
we're in
it.
the comment portion.
Sure. My first comment is just a general observation, not necessarily about this project, but for my own statement and for people in the audience statement and for the Planning Commission and for council, town council even, but also staff, is the importance and of moving away from subjective conditions and adopting more and more objective criteria. Many people came here tonight talking about neighborhood context, and we have old conditions that say, speaking about fit in with the character, which is a very subjective term, and I think that's well established tonight. And the state is pushing all local jurisdictions to go towards these objective design criteria, where is it 25 feet or not? Is it, how many trees or how many building materials or whatever you want to do, that is an example of a very objective criteria. And we have them for many areas of the town, and I just encourage the town to continue to make sure that all of our design guidelines are in fact objective. I think it makes it clear for everyone. And, for jobs like these, it's establishing expectations and being consistent is really important. Tonight, I just want to remind everybody that we're talking about the architecture of these 7 homes and the finite grading that is being proposed on these 7 homes. Everything that was discussed for the vesting tentative map, which are the trees on the other side of the street, the street lights, the bridge, the trees in the creek, are all prior approvals, prior actions that aren't before us tonight. I think we can talk about it, that's fine. But in terms of my deliberation, I'm really just focusing in on the architecture and the fine grading plan. The applicant answered some of my questions about specificity of the elevations. And I'd like to see some of that specificity go into, because they're not on the plans, go into a maybe slightly modified condition of approval so that we are arming staff with the ability, when they're making that ultimate compliance determination with the building permits, that they have the details that they can say objectively, yes, this complies, no, it doesn't. I think it's good for the applicant, I think it's good for the neighbors, I think it's good for staff. And I think I heard, creating a shadow line around all windows. So that means you're either having 2 inches of trim. When I say 2 inches, I'm talking depth, right? 2 inches of trim or 2 inches of recess around all windows for all structures on the property for each house type. We're talking about the railings and awnings being, now I'm trying to be objective here, being prefabricated metal. I'm sorry, not prefabricated, but ornamental metal material or wood or whatever wood compliant materials required, that they be protruding from the house as indicated in the elevation. So if it shows a shed roof, that shed roof come out a minimum of 18 inches. I think I'm comfortable with the front doors and the garage doors. The roof material is going to be a cementitious S-tile roof or flat tile roof, not an asphalt shingle. I think that was that. And in terms of the front yard landscaping, that every lot have a tree that is compliant with whatever the code is, and be a, I don't want to, let me quickly look at the landscape plans to see what's being proposed.
I can show you right here.
I'm just trying to see if the size, so it says 24-inch box. The developer said they would be willing to do a 36-inch box. I'm actually here to say, putting in a smaller tree in the long run is going to get you a healthier tree. Transplanting a bigger tree is harder on the tree itself. However, to establish that more immediate screening, I think a 36-inch box would be reasonable for all front yards, and I guess leave it up. I'm trying to estimate whether or not there's going to be any lot that can't have one, but I think they would all fit. And I believe the planning department, if it doesn't comply, can probably do that at a staff level.
Mhm.
So that would be my recommendations. And then also just, I don't think it needs to be a condition, but I believe that this project will need to be compliant with whatever building code is in effect at the time they submit their building permits. So I'm not as concerned about the materials or the fence material or the landscaping around the Zone 0 area, because that will all be taken care of during the plan check of the building permits themselves. So with that, this project has been a long time coming. And frankly, I didn't talk about ADUs. The state of California is really pushing density, and every local jurisdiction has they call it RHNA, Regional Housing Needs Allocation Requirement, that we need to show that we are zoning for and allowing for our local jurisdiction to satisfy. And in fact, if we have to now submit compliance reports annually, that what we've done to attempt to comply. And jurisdictions like Moraga have gone through an extraordinary effort to do housing element updates, to rezone, to allow for smart growth and density in certain areas of the town. For Moraga, it's around our urban cores, that we really encourage density. There is another route that we also have that the state frankly isn't giving us an option on, and that's the development of accessory dwelling units in the rear yards. And it's not this project that is proposing it. The state has allowed for every single house, if you comply with the state house ADU ordinance. Frankly, many of us could put ADUs in our rear yard, and they really have tied the local jurisdiction's hands on how much review and how much those ADUs need to comply with our local zoning requirements. I think ADUs are great because they are an awesome way to create more living opportunities for our, mixed age housing for our families. I don't know if one of my kids may come back. Let's hope they go off on their own. But frankly, I would also love to have one of them come back to live with us. And I think an ADU would be a great opportunity for that. Or, perhaps, an in-law would want to come and live there. Or it could be rented out, and it could create affordable housing opportunities without having to really increase our urban infrastructure. And it gives us credits towards our RHNA housing allocation. So I'm glad to see there's ADUs being proposed, and frankly, I think more and more of these will be coming throughout our entire town of Moraga and the state of California. So I'm glad to see them here. With all that said, I support this project. I think I am ready to move forward with some of the amendments we talked about, or with the amendments I proposed tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Bodie, Vice Chair Bodie.
Sure. I'll go next. I'm in complete agreement with Commissioner Halber with regards to making sure that we stay more objective versus being subjective, because that just causes us to spiral and swirl, and we've been in many meetings where that's happened before, and so it's nice to maintain that level of focus. I've taken a lot of notes, and I've listened to everyone here, and so I want to say thanks, but wow, since 2008, this is a project that screams persistence on both sides, okay? And I don't know if you've held the property since 2008, maybe it's been purchased, but, and I think we're gonna be dealing with more and more of this over time, where you find these parcels that are sold, that are kind of tucked away in these pre-existing neighborhoods with a certain look and feel that were built, 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, or longer, right? So, and that said, one of the neighbors made a comment about, let's make sure we do it right. It is hard to do it right, perhaps impossible to do it right, and accomplish everyone's goals here. Clearly, there's no way that we're going to be able to build a smaller home here, right? The developer needs to turn a profit, and the mitigation strategies that we have, one is to build a smaller home. That's not going to happen. One is going to be to not put in an ADU. Well, that's not going to happen, because if you're a developer and you're taking advantage of a state law, and these are things to our represented, or these are things to the folks in Sacramento that we elected. I don't like ADUs personally, but it is a state law, and these are the folks we elected. And that's that, right? And so if we want to change it, you guys all know what you need to do. But I don't see that happening. Now, so the ADUs aren't going away, right? And they increase, not only do they increase the property value, right? But to Commissioner Halber's, they allow for more affordable housing, right? And that's really what we're looking for. So other mitigation strategies we talked about today. The screening, the foliage, is that going to make a difference? We're looking at maybe 8 trees here. That's, that may or may not help things, right? The eventual homeowner still needs to agree to the landscaping that they're buying, right? So, you know, it's not the neighbors that are going to be able to choose what trees go where. It's going to be the homeowner that decides what tree goes where, and you guys are all going to have to work together. So screening foliage, right? That's probably not a very good, probably not a very good mitigation strategy. So think about some of the other ways that you can mitigate this. It sounds like there are certain benefits that the builder will provide. One was a trail, okay? And perhaps there's others, right? There's other things that the builder may offer up to mitigate the value, not only of the homes, but of the entire community, okay? I don't know what they are right now, but just food for thought. The other thing I liked, there's gonna be an HOA. And you can tie pre-existing rules and conditions to the HOA, like the HOA needs to keep the creek clear. The HOA needs to keep the riparian habitat in place. The HOA needs to do certain things, right? And so just, again, more food for thought. A couple neighbors spoke about the lighting. I don't think they're gonna put in any lighting. That costs a ton of money. Why would you do that, right? If it's not a requirement, and if it's going to increase the price of the homes and no one really needs it or wants it, then I think we're okay there. So overall, from the houses themselves, I mean, I think they look great. And I'm actually a proponent of this project. I like seeing things like this in Moraga, and I think it's just something that all of us here in Moraga are gonna start having to get used to, because this is the only way that new housing development will happen here, right? It has to benefit the developer to actually make it pencil out. So those are the only points I wanted to make, but thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weber?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the best parts of serving on this commission is I really take great value in the public comments. You folks are taking time from your work, your families, your evenings to come here and provide us with your input. These are your properties, your homes. You certainly have, you invest in them. They're your legacy. You want to leave them to your children, perhaps, or they're your nest egg. And I value very highly, the folks who come here tonight to provide the comments on their homes and what may or may not affect them. I was heartened to hear that the applicant has made on open hearing that he's willing to work and continue to work with the commission, the planning staff, and this is, of course, just the latest iteration. In order to make this project continue to go forward, you have to make a number of concessions, and he's continued to do so to try to make this project work. I find, like my colleagues have said, these designs are very tasteful. They're also highly consistent with the sizes of developments we've already seen. Harvest Court, right off Camino Ricardo. We've seen them in Bella Vista as well off of Ream. These aren't unusual nowadays. I mean, what was consistent 60 years ago to do 2,000 square foot homes is not realistic today, as the commission, as my colleagues have said. The colors are neutral. I would caution that we not get into too much detail, about what we require of the developer going forward with regards to exactly specifications, if only because, he's going to know better than any of us what will sell and what what potential buyers will want, so long as they meet, requirements for fire safety and building standards. I think that those details are more easily left to the planning commissioner, or to the planning staff to manage. The grading is exceptionally modest. It's just another 0.5% beyond what's already been asked for. And, the concerns of size, I've already mentioned. I think, I know you look back there and you see you had enjoyed this open space for so very long, but, it's down to only 7 homes. At one point it was much more than that. I guess it was, the lady mentioned in the corner there was 18 homes. Imagine if you were talking about 18 homes there, or even more. I mean, the concerns would be, you'd have several more people here, so it's been significantly reduced. This footprint is 3.1 acres out of 57. It may seem large for the folks here assembled who sit on Sanders Ranch or Sanders Drive, but in fact, this project's reduced in scope so much that, of course you have to have a larger size to be able to have the project pencil out. Consider if it was multifamily or high density. we'd have it be an entirely different discussion. But, one of the things that I think is important, and my fellow commissioners have already alluded to, but I want to mention it as well because my experience comes from working in state politics, is the broader questions that we have to concern ourselves with is we are exceptionally limited with what we can approve and disapprove because of mandates from the state with ADUs and so on. We have to comply with state housing element law. We have 1,150 units that we need to build. This is a tiny number, a fraction of that's required if we do not want to have the Housing Accountability Unit at HCD come down on us. That's something that we have to consider always whenever I come here and serve on this commission. And my thought is, how do we keep the state off our back and still try to keep what limited discretion we already have? And also, too, we have an affordability crisis in this state, and that's something that I think we always have to look at as commissioners with the broader perspective of not only requirements of the housing element, but what are we going to be providing so that there's affordability or comparative affordability, or at least availability, if not affordability, for people to be able to purchase homes in our communities. And with all of those comments, I'm prepared to go forward and support the resolution tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, again, thank you to all of you for being here. I'm sorry public comment is closed at this time. I appreciate everybody being here. It is you in the audience are the reason I'm on the Planning Commission, because we want to be a voice for the people who live in Moraga. We love Moraga. I also want to thank the developer for coming today and being so open to discussion. It's really encouraging to hear a developer be so willing to talk to the neighbors, and I would encourage you to continue to do so and maybe get a coalition of the people who back up on Sanders Drive to be a part of a landscaping, subsect to help you pick out where trees go, what makes most sense, and consider their visual as you do this. As many have talked about tonight we are not making a decision on approving the development. The development's been approved. We're here to discuss the design of it. I do appreciate very much that you have kept with the color scheme that you have, which is aligned with the community. I struggled as well with many of the things that were brought up in the letters that you all wrote to us, which again I really appreciate in terms of the meeting with the feel of the community, right? Because like you, looking at these homes, no, objectively it does not, these are not one-story ranchers, right? Or ranch-like homes. However, again, according to our state and our mandates, they are in line in terms of building materials and color and landscaping and things like that, which are within our scope to approve or disapprove. Unlike my colleagues, I don't particularly like developments like this, but they are where we are in this state and in the country today. I much prefer a 2,000 square foot home with a larger backyard, but it's not up to me today to choose what I like and not like. Again, I think the developers have done a really nice job making these not just square boxes sitting on small lots. So there is a change in elevation and some interesting aspects, the balconies, the awnings, which I do think help take away some of the blocking nature that some of these developments can have and often do have, and to minimize the visual difference. And I think, unfortunately, we all buy our homes, and a lot of us buy them for the view that they afford. And sadly, I wish that was deeded with the homes that we buy, that view stays forever. But again, much happier to see a proposal with 7 homes as opposed to 18. And and one that is doing its best to be visually pleasing. For those, I know that some people had questions about the lighting. Encourage you, I'm sure you all have read the attachment to the agenda tonight that did talk about lighting requirements being facing the homes and downward so that there was less impact. And I forget the terminology for it, the nighttime dark sky approved, so that there is as limited impact as possible to those of you across the way. And so I also would encourage everybody to go to Sacramento, because the rules as they are make it very difficult to say no to anything with developers, good, bad, or indifferent. With that being said, I think that the developers have done a nice job with this and are complying with all of our design standards. And I would feel comfortable moving forward with approving the project as well, assuming we do include, and Ben, I will lean on, Commissioner Helber, I will lean on you as always for the specifics regarding more detail for doors, windows, awnings, and railings, making sure that those, there's more specificity added to the design, since we are lacking that now, as well as adding a condition of approval of that 36-inch box tree in front of each home, because while we don't have the ability to impact much, that would at least provide some visual awning or shading from, screening from across the way. And would ask that if additional lighting is added, that the town staff address that to ensure that it is not negatively impacting those along Sanders Drive, including that parking area at the, I believe that's at the end of Lot 7. So unless anybody else has any, from the commission, have any other comments, I will remember what order we go in here, because it's been a while, and I printed this in too small of type. So, yeah. If you're ready
I'd be
to adopt,
willing to
make a
make a
motion,
motion.
yes, that would be great, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Helber, to make a motion on the resolutions.
I make a motion to approve Design Review Board DRB-06-24 and the grading permit GR-01-25 for the development of 7 residents and associated improvements located at the addresses listed on the resolution. With this amendment, with the following amendments. And forgive me. I literally had them here and then here we go. Okay. For section 13 letters, and before I actually start reading them, if it's all right with the chair, I have a question of staff.
Absolutely.
I haven't done Greenpoint rated. Does it still have a silver check requirement? Sometimes these things are legacy, and I don't recall that lately, but.
I do not know. Do you know, Brian?
No, I don't know exactly how that
Okay.
rating would be, but
Well, I don't think they do LEED for single-family houses. I do know they do Greenpoint rated. I just don't want to, again, everything we put here, staff has to deem compliance with, and I don't want to have us create a requirement that we can't necessarily enforce.
I will say they still operate. We check
Okay.
that, and there still is a process to get.
Greenpoint rated, I know exists. I just don't know if silver is a terminology I haven't seen for a while. So I'm going to skip over that. So it ends, 13 ends with E. I would like to add the following 1, 2, 3, 4, is that right? No, 5 conditions. F, windows shall include 2-inch trim or 2-inch recess to create shadow line on all elevations of all structures. G, roof material shall be cementitious fiber cement or equal high quality material. H, or number 3, architecture elements on elevation shall be at least, I said 24-inch off building plane to achieve articulation. I, siding shall be on all building elevations as shown in the conceptual elevations. J, which is the 5th one, each lot shall have at least one 36-inch box tree adjusted as required per California Building Code.
On the front facing,
Okay, yeah, you're right. Each lot shall have at least one 36-inch box tree in the front setback, compliant with California Building Code. This is
Clarification.
where staff usually fixes everything I
fixes
said.
everything.
For clarification, do you mean the front setback or the front yard?
Front yard.
Front yard, not to be distinguished from the front required setback, which might exceed. I don't know if it exceeds.
Yeah,
the front.
I say front yard, is that
Front yard.
specific enough?
Front yard
Of each lot.
might be different in every lot, to be distinguished from the front required setback. Front yard
You're
gives more
correct,
flexibility.
front yard. Thank you for that clarification. What about, were the other ones all right? Any comments from anyone else?
I would just add, and I realize that we've closed on comments, but while this has to be approved by by MOFD, I would encourage the developer to really be very conservative. The more conservative, the better, especially when backing up to open space, and take away the wood fencing right next to the homes, and be as conservative as possible in terms of fire-wise, zone 0, but not as a condition of approval.
Okay, I apologize.
One more?
Yeah, F, G, H, I, J, K, the 6th one. The ADU shall be of similar building material.
Yeah.
And compliant with these conditions when submitted.
Thank you, Commissioner Halber.
That is my motion.
Is there a second? Commissioner
Second.
Weber? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The resolution passes with 4 ayes. There is a 10-day appeal period on any decisions made by the Planning Commission, and appeals can be made directly to planning staff or town clerk. We now move on to routine and other matters, which is approving the 2026 Planning Commission meeting calendar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. This, we have one item under routine and other matters. What you have before you is our proposed calendar, your meeting calendar for the 2026. We're still in a meeting. For the 2026 Planning Commission meeting calendar, you'll note that the typical winter closing does not affect the commission's standard meeting pattern.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you. And then moving on to reports.
Are you?
Oh, wait, sorry, we have to approve, yes, approve the 2026 Planning Commission meeting calendar. So it was under routine and other matters, not as, but all in favor? A motion to approve the 2026 Planning Commission calendar?
Aye.
Or can I get a motion?
Oh.
Commissioner Weber?
So moved.
And I'll second.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No choice.
Great. Don't know what's on it, but it sounds good. All right, and moving on to reports. Planning commissioners, do you have any reports to share?
None?
I have none. And how about staff?
Yes. Can you ask them to?
That's okay.
Kind of loud. Okay, just a few things. Again, happy to see you this year. It's February. Thanks. We had something. We will have. We do have items right now for March 3rd. So anticipate getting a call for quorum for that as well. We did have the town council did interview 2 candidates this evening for the planning commissioner vacancies. One commissioner was not available, so they'll schedule those for another time. But we should have three new commissioners, or 3.
That takes place when?
It'll go before the town council, I believe, for their next meeting, where they will accept the nominations,
All right.
hopefully.
That's March 3rd. I can make that on a Tuesday.
Yeah, you don't need to be there.
Oh.
We just need, we have the other person. We have
For the interview?
Commissioner Polsky.
sorry,
still needs-
I think he was
Slightly
still talking about.
Really distracted.
Sorry, gentlemen, could you move out into the hall, please?
That's fine. I was trying to get them out.
Well, we do need a quorum for March 3rd.
I thought we were talking about the
I thought we were talking about the interviews, but. so
Yeah,
the-
we're talking about the interviews, but we
so
can
the
also talk about the
interviews,
quorum.
They become planning, whoever. is
So
nominated.
so there's 3 vacancies on the planning commission. The
Beginning.
town council interviewed March. We want the new
So for the
new
March 3rd
terms.
meeting.
Correct, ideally.
Okay.
Ideally. We may not be able to reach that because one of the planning commission candidates was not available for interviews. So we're asking the town council to consider the nominations. They did the interviews today, the first round of interviews, whoever was available, and then we'll take that to the next council meeting for see if they'll move forward with the nominations. And anyone who is not available to be interviewed will be interviewed at a later date. Yes, so
How many applications did you have total?
we had 3 vacancies and 3 applicants.
Oh, okay.
So we're very excited to learn more about what the town council decides about the candidates. The other thing is we have staff provided for you the hard copy of the Brown Act, the updated Brown Act. There have been a lot of changes under SB 707. Please take a look at those. Some of the things are similar, some things are different. And I also recommend perhaps reviewing the town attorney's presentation that they made to the town council last month, where they did put together a presentation about the changes to the Brown Act. A lot of it having to do with increasing access for virtual participation under some considerations. So it's a great presentation, so I recommend looking at that in addition to the hard copies that we are obligated to provide to you. And then my last bit of information is that in the past we've provided hard copy binders of planning commission information. We're working on a digital version of that. That way we can just update that on a simpler, faster way. So we'll be providing that to the new commissioner once we get them, and then we'll provide it for you as well. That will include the planning commissioner handbook, all the sections of the ordinance that apply to your work, other helpful resources. And of course, I'm always available to speak to anybody about your roles, your obligations, any inquiries, and also, like I said, in an informational email, if you have any questions about items at the town council, on the town council agenda, I'm also happy to be available to talk to you about those. And that is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well then do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned at 8:31 p.m.
Well done.
Should have shared that I did walk that property today in a monsoon.
In the mud?
And had to come home and hose out my muddy boots because I had my boots ended